Hello, I'm the Angry Spork, taking issue with Power Rangers / Ninja Turtles. The Rangers were cut off from their morphers, so it was up to Clan Hamato and April O'Neil to use their power to fight off a monster attack in Times Square. Not resting on their laurels, Jason and the gang were led by Casey Jones to the Technodrome, freeing Tommy Oliver and helping convince his old buddy Tyler that the sect of criminal ninjas weren't the best family for him. That'd be it if not for Rita supersizing Rocksteady and Bebop, drawing the Turtles into another battle, but this time piloting the Megazord. Issue 5's cover sees our heroes running across the rooftops, now back in their normal appearances, with the Megazord in the background. And I'm obscuring it because it's got a bit of a spoiler beyond that, which I'm saving for later. I guess the Giganto-mutants didn't stray too far from Central Park, because that's where the showdown is happening. Despite the Zord having to squeeze between buildings last issue, guess they all wanted more room to brawl. Raph gets the hang of the controls fairly quickly, likening it to a button masher video game. This was short notice, so they replaced the usual Megazord controls with a Mad Catz, meaning some of the buttons have different labels and the controller itself is awkward and clunky to hold. Spotting the Technodrome nearby, Raph suggests prying it open and pulling Shredder out. But first, they've got his mutant minions to deal with, so they summon the Megazord's iconic blade.
Let's bring in the Megasword.
It's called the Power Sword? But that's what the Red Ranger's weapon is called. Sheesh, Zordon must have been feeling really uncreative when... Wait a minute. Zordon? Zords? Zordon? Zord? How did I not see that all these years and I never... They're hit with a barrage of missiles courtesy of the Dragon Sword, operated by Shredder. Attacking with the mech's drill tail, he declares that soon only he will be able to use the power coins, regardless of who physically possesses them. The Turtles are knocked down and the mech is unresponsive as Bebop and Rocksteady close in. Leo calls the command center, where Alpha gives Donatello access to the control systems, and Zordon coordinates with the Rangers to lend further aid. Though the machine gets a boost of power, the Turtles are still overwhelmed, as Shredder relishes finally ending his foes, even if it means destroying the Megazord, which he wanted to keep intact. All that damage, being outside the box, it's not going to fetch much of a price on eBay anyway. Nostalgia only opens people's wallets up so much. When all seems lost, they're helped by the Rangers piloting Metalhead, having been enlarged using Donatello's miniaturization ray, obviously flipped in reverse, and with modifications, I guess to explain the monitors in a control station. Either that or Don had some incredible foresight. A few hits and electrocution, Bebop and Rocksteady are defeated, leaving only the Dragon Zord and a defiant Shredder who ignores the offer to surrender his purloined power coin. After getting recharged from Metalhead, the Megazord hits its dragon counterpart with the Crown Cannon, which, I guess, disables it? That explains why the villain decides if he can't have the giant robots, no one can, summoning Rita to transport him out of there while ordering Stockman to destroy the Zords. The Technodrome starts shooting lightning at the drained mechas, and Zordon tells them to quickly use the Megazord's adaptive capabilities. Robot parts break apart, then reassemble into a single Turtle Megazord.
Thank Henry Ford for standardized parts.
Unfortunately, they can't activate any weapon systems until they've successfully selected all images with street signs. Yeah, this was what was spoiled on the cover, which I kind of wanted to wait until this moment to reveal. It looks pretty snazzy, all things considered, keeping a great balance of the Megazord and a turtle-like appearance. The heroes take a mighty leap, shout their respective catchphrases, and land with a mighty slice of their sword upon the Technodrome. Though how destroyed it gets is difficult to tell, as after this shining victory, we immediately go to the command center, conferring with the head in a jar about their next move. Shredder still has the power of the Dragon Ranger, and he did mention being the only one that'll soon be able to use any of the coins. Even with their combined abilities, Zordon warns against going after the villains without their powers, which feels slightly inaccurate because the Turtles have those powers and have been using them pretty well. But in any case, he's interrupted by the nerds and Alpha 5, who may have discovered a solution to their problem, though admit it's kind of a long shot. The short version, Zordon, is that we all put on fake mustaches, open up a coin polishing pavilion, and give away coupons for free service to all evil ninja megalomaniacs. In her moon palace, Rita assures Orokusaki that her magic can enhance his disruption beam to encompass the entire planet, so that only those he chooses will be able to use the power coins. The trust between them has become strained, given that he's lost his army and his lair, and warns that if this doesn't work, he'll take her fortress for his own and throw her back into the cosmos. Where is he going to find a magical trash can at this hour?
A guest should never threaten the master of the house.
What about after, 7 beers? But Shredhead's not the only guest, as the Turtles, Casey, and the repowered Rangers appear in her sanctum, ready for a fight. Can we threaten you? Over Twitter, preferably? It's just more convenient, you know? As the fight gets going, Rita mocks the Turtles as nothing more than freaks that protect people who fear them and will never get the recognition they're owed. I guess this version of the character is into psychological warfare or something, but it doesn't really faze them. Doing the right thing, even without accolades, is kind of what heroes do, and as ninjas, they're not supposed to be seen anyway. Michelangelo lands the first hit on her. Casey and several Rangers contend with Rita's minions.
I really didn't think I'd be fighting a golden gorilla on the moon. A jade walrus in Hoboken, that seemed more plausible.
Billy and Zack confront Shredder, telling him to give up the dragon coin.
Yeah, green and purple is not a good look for you. You're not from planet Namek, and you're not a foxy red-headed human woman.
He knocks the Mastodon rider away, deriding his attempt to best him in hand-to-hand combat, but that wasn't really the plan. As Zack says in this awkward panel, it took me a minute to realize he's upside down, where before I thought it was just a weird shot of his waist and he had a different belt or something. My crazy brain. Anywho, he gives Tommy the signal to use Shredder's own energy disruption device against him, cutting him off from the coveted coin. After throwing Saki's own remark about resilience back at him, and getting a solid shot to his head, Tommy reacquires his morpher and becomes the Green Ranger once more. Though the villain is ready to die before surrendering, he's magically shielded from the heroes by Rita, who will hand him over to them unless he takes her to the much-talked-about allies in Dimension X, which may have been her plan all along, and the villains are all teleported away. Yeah, that'll help their alliance. A family road trip. Finster complaining that Babu is making weird faces at him, Goldar needing to use the bathroom every 3 miles, and if you think Squat is ugly now, just wait until you see him car-sick. Later in the Turtles' lair, Tommy apologizes to Master Splinter for putting his sons in danger with his foolish actions, but the old rat assures him that while mistakes may have been made, all can be remedied. Leonardo will return the energy cell, Donatello will dismantle Shredder's device, and when their enemies return, they will all face them as allies. Donnie suggests maybe keeping Metalhead Giant, not sure how he's going to house that, but okay. Leo and Jason swap sword technique recommendations, while Zack and Mikey create a new pizza with coleslaw, bananas, and grasshoppers.
Wait a minute, edible roaches don't crawl. Edible roaches don't crawl!
Ernie will put it on the menu, and it shall be called the Michelangelo.
And the Michelangelo will be pulled from the menu a week later when no one buys it. The health department will pay a not-so-happy visit, and taking advice from a teenager about food ingredients will become Ernie's supervillain origin story. Kim thanks April for her help and filling in, and the reporter actually enjoyed being the hero for a change. Tyler is saying his goodbyes, 'cause I guess the guy who only renounced the foot a few hours ago is okay to know all the Rangers' identities and where the Turtles live. I'd say Batman would have a lecture ready for them, but as some of my past reviews have pointed out, he's been pretty lax on security himself in recent years. Rather than join his old friend in Angel Grove, Tyler has chosen to lead the other ex-foot soldiers in making up for what they've done wrong, with Casey Jones promising to keep them in line.
They're going to be my own little personal cleanup crew.
Which is why their first assignment will be cleaning Casey's apartment. Tommy promises that he's available whenever Tyler needs him because they're family. Raphael calls the Green Ranger aside, saying they've got a tie to break. With the others feeling it's best to let them get it out of their system, the comic ends on the Ranger and the Turtle beginning their next match. That was Mighty Morphin Power Rangers / Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it was one of the most fun, most enjoyable crossovers I read in a while. I'll admit that part of it is likely some nostalgia at work. I don't really follow or care about the Power Rangers franchise anymore, but I do still have some fond childhood memories of watching it as a kid. and there were a lot of references, callbacks, and nods that didn't feel too forced or that they were doing any of the heavy lifting instead of, the actual plot. They hang more than a couple of lampshades for fun, like Donnie's stream of questions that included how someone plays a flute through metal. Obviously, so a non-ranger can't pick up the dagger and control the mecha not Godzilla, the hilt is pressed to the faceplate as a means of identity authentication, while the command melodies are actually generated through the appropriate finger movements in conjunction with the user's mental intent relayed via the morphin grid. That's just science. These iterations of the characters feel like really good updates to the original series. They may not be identical, seeing as they don't really look all that much like the original actors if you ask me, but I don't feel like they deviate all that much from their personalities. One might argue Trini as an example to that, what with her lament that the Rangers seem to be the only defense against these monster attacks, but I figured that would wear on anyone after a while. Speaking of, I would have figured they'd have done more to spotlight her change of heart after meeting the turtles and finding out what they go through, but it seems the reader just has to assume she learned a lesson about perseverance or the grass being greener on the other side or whatever. Or maybe it was never meant to be an arc or subplot, like the turtles exchanging what they'd like most about being human. Odd how not a single one of them said pants. As for Clan Hamato and related characters, since this is one of those crossovers where the heroes live in the same continuity, they seem to be more composites of various iterations, most heavily influenced by the 80s series, with the monogram buckles, the Technodrome, news reporter April, some of Donatello's sillier technology like the shrink/growth ray, though the wrapping around the turtles' hands and feet may have been inspired by the 2012 series, and when I read Shredder's dialogue, I mostly heard Scott Rayau from the 2003 show in my head, by how this comic showed the villain carrying himself, though Kevin Michael Richardson's take from 2012 would totally work as well. And frankly, I think the whole mishmash idea is the biggest reason why they left this Splinter's origins more ambiguous, as many versions have him start out as a rat, while others had him human. Whatever the case, the different heroes, after the standard dust-up, had great interactions with each other, most seemed to form genuine bonds. And while most of the Kiyas and Ayas were mostly from the Rangers and maybe some of the Foot, even Raph joined in on that silly little quirk. It was all so downright wholesome without feeling too sappy. Trini, however, didn't quite seem to make such connections. Tommy was a prisoner for half the story, and Kim didn't seem all that close to April. The Yellow Ranger never seemed to click with anyone, save for a conversation or two with Raphael. Arguably a missed opportunity, but with so many characters and personalities, it's understandable that not everyone would be showcased with a turtle bestie. Alternatively, she could have gotten advice from Splinter on how to achieve a Ranger life balance through meditation, or eating the right kind of cheese. The story was great, not just in how they pitted the heroes against each other before they joined forces, but how they left room for surprises and twists in the evil schemes at work. There's a sense of danger, of stakes, without getting too graphic or edgy for edginess' sake, so it can be enjoyed by fans of just about any age. The art is great with its use of colors, in particular with energy and light effects. Unique designs for the Turtle Megazord, Dragon Shredder, and the Ranger Turtles are all excellently balanced. I can't find a single complaint where the art is concerned. As for the negatives, they're mostly minor. A few punctuation errors where I think some commas should have been but were left out, though it could be correct and I'm missing some kind of grammatical context. I thought it overused that thing where a character starts saying something and it gets completed on the next page in a narration box. I mean, did they think readers would be so invested in a snappy zinger from Raph or Zack that'd be the only reason we would turn the page? The first issue begins with this ominous fast-forward where weapons are strewn about in certain places, but there was never, a fight at the juice bar, so that just seemed misleading. Totally a missed opportunity for a putty fight to break out there, so Ernie could pull out a Tommy gun from behind the bar and just start blasting away. Then we have this opening narration monologue, possibly from Tommy, but it's not really specified, about how friends you grow up with know you better than you know yourself, before you know yourself, and that family-like bond is permanent even if you move away and don't see each other for years and years. I've got friends I haven't seen or spoken to in a while, and having not really caught up, people change. It happens. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it doesn't make you experts on each other either, especially if someone goes through something they don't tell you about that was dramatically life-changing. As that monologue pertains to Tommy and Tyler, it does work for the most part, but we're given pretty much the bare minimum of their old relationship. They were orphans, they grew up in the same home, they dealt with the same struggles. But how well does Tommy know Tyler if the guy was holding on to a grudge about him being adopted? Heck, why did he have that much of a grudge since he eventually got adopted too? Yeah, I know I mentioned in the first episode he had a stepdad, but it was actually his foster dad. My mistake. And heck, you gotta imagine that Tommy and Tyler had some contact in the intervening years, because it was the foster dad calling Tommy that instigated this whole adventure in the first place. They did kind of gloss over two rather story-centric details. One, how the Rangers were able to get their powers back. Shredder's machine was said to have caused some kind of disruption in their DNA, and when it fell to the Turtles to become Mighty Morphin power interns, there still hadn't been a solution found. Donnie, Billy, and Alpha seem to have come up with something after exchanging vague science words with each other, but what the process was is never brought up. Whatever it was, it not only fixed the Rangers' problems, it also seems like it could have negated Shredder's plan to bathe the planet in his energy wave. The second thing was how they got the Shredder's device to use on him in the first place. It didn't seem like the Ninja Rangers took it when they freed Tommy, and we didn't see Tyler take it since they were running from the uncontrollable putty soldiers. It could have been recovered after the Technodrome got Zorded in the eyeball, but who knows? Maybe it was accidentally overlooked because the creators were so dead set on 5 issues to avoid having too many pages of nice-looking filler for a 6th issue. That being said, this was still a great meetup between iconic martial arts heroes that avoided being too dark or too campy, where they felt like people, and turtles, becoming friends over shared interests, not because of hackneyed story demands. While one might get more enjoyment if they watched the original Power Rangers series, I don't know that it's necessarily a barrier to this story. Here's hoping the sequel miniseries is at least as good, whenever I get to that one. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.